welcome. I am Eva, CEO of GlobalFi. I have Diego, my partner here with me, and our CRO. And today we're going to be discussing everything that you need to know about the 2024-2025 tax season.
Yeah, it's true. First of all, thank you very much for joining us today in this subject that is not so interesting, right? Nobody likes
Nobody likes to pay taxes, actually, right?
It's true. But the goal today is to talk more about how you, as a foreign entrepreneur, have to comply with the IRS and with the State Department of Revenue. So,
yeah, I would mention that it's really important to understand that this webinar is focused on non-resident aliens or non-citizens and non-temporary or not permanent residents of the United States. This webinar is focused on entrepreneurs that are working from abroad and they own either an LLC or a corporation in the United States.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and I would like to highlight that we are also entrepreneurs, right? As founders of GlobalFi, we know the pain of someone that wanted to start doing business in the US, start their first LLC or their corporation, and then they have no clue about what to do with that company and how to comply with the IRS.
Exactly.
So the goal today is to make it clear for you and make you sure that you can count on GlobalFi to fulfill all your compliance with the IRS and with State Department of Revenue.
Yes, and just giving you a quick overview of everything that we're going to cover here today, we're going to be discussing all the different company structures. So we're going to talk about LLC with only one owners, two owners, sole proprietorship, partnership, C corporation. If you have a foreign company that is a member of your LLC, we're going to talk about state renewal for all the states that we work with, the most important deadlines, the penalties, forms, how to file. So we're going to cover everything that you need to know about the taxation in the United States and especially about how to be compliant in this tax season.
That's true. And before I move ahead, I would just like to give two quick notices in Portuguese and Spanish. Então, se você fala português, a gente tem uma live também, já gravada aqui no nosso canal do YouTube, que explica tudo que a gente vai explicar aqui, mas em português.
Muito bem lembrado.
E se usted habla español, nosotros acabamos de hacer una otra live en español, hablando todo sobre impuestos en Estados Unidos. Entonces, puede ascender a nuestro canal en YouTube, que tiene la opción de verificar también este mismo contenido, pero en español. Thanks very much, guys. Just letting our audience that speaks Portuguese and English knows that we also have this content in Portuguese and Spanish to make it easier for them to understand and navigate the IRS and the tax in the US.
Yes.
Let's go. Let's start. So, well, the first thing is that I would like to introduce GlobalFi. So I would like to tell three important informations regarding GlobalFi. So GlobalFi is an American company that was established in 2015 that helps international founders to set up and to manage their operations in the US. So we go from the business formation to the mayor room, virtual address, register agent service, and also the accounting and tax service. So we've been in business for about 10 years, and we have over 10,000 customers from 100 different countries. So that's why we speak different languages, right? So that way we can provide the best customer service and the best experience for each one of our 10,000 clients that are all non-resident entrepreneurs doing business in the US. And as Eva mentioned before, this content was developed exclusively for business owners who are not US residents nor US citizens, okay? So this will not apply to you if you live in the US or if you are a US citizen. So the first question, really direct to the point. Tax-wise, what are the difference between an LLC and a corporation?
The most important difference between an LLC and a corporation is the way that they are taxed. So corporations, they will pay taxes on a corporate level, which will be 21% on their profits or net income. I will mention profits to make it easy to understand, but we are referring to net income, which has a slightly different definition. And when you do profit distributions or dividend distributions from a corporation, the members, the shareholders of a corporation will also pay taxes on a personal level, which will depend on the country we're working from. But if your country does not have a treaty with the United States, the taxation will go all the way to 30%. So you're going to pay 21% on a corporation level plus 30% on a personal level. So corporations, they are not very tax efficient, if your goal is to do profit distribution, dividend
Sure.
distribution very often. On the other hand, LLCs, they don't pay taxes on a company level. All the profits, all net income is considered already distributed to the members, and the members will pay taxes on a personal level or on their personal income tax returns. On the other hand, contrary to corporations, LLCs are not very tax efficient. If you're planning to have a high net income, let's say we're talking here about $800,000 or $1 million a year in profits, maybe it's time for you to sit down with our tax team and do a tax planning to understand your options.
Perfect. So yeah, corporations, it's broadly used by living, if you are an entrepreneur in German or France or Portugal and then or UK, and then you're raising capital, and then maybe some of your investors in the US require you to have a
Yes,
corporation dollar, right?
usually.
Usually. On the other hand, LLC, it's mostly used for e-commerce owners or even software developers or smaller companies that, I mean, it's the owners operating the business or they're managing
Yes.
directly the operation in the US and they have no outside investors, okay? Let's go to the next question here. Are there only federal taxes that are reported to the IRS, or there are also state taxes?
So we have federal income tax and we also have state income tax. GlobalFi works pretty much with 5 primary states, and between them, Florida will be the one charging state income tax, and it will apply only to corporations. So depending on the state where your company is registered, you may be subject to state income tax too, besides the federal income tax.
Perfect. And as we mentioned in the other webinars, it's important to remember that there's not just state income tax, but there are also state annual report or state franchise tax.
Exactly.
We're going to talk about that later.
We're going to cover that later, but it's important to remember that although sometimes, depending on the circumstances, your company won't be subject to income tax, it's mandatory that you do your annual report or franchise tax every year or every 2 years, depending on the state, to keep your business compliant and authorize it to operate in the US.
It's true. Perfect. Next one. So is it tax paid on income or on profits? And what happens if there's an operational loss on the company?
Really good. So in the United States, you're never going to pay taxes on your revenue, okay? You will always take the deductions of your costs. So let's say that you sell products, you're going to take the cost of merchandise sold, the product sold. You're going to get the expenses that you have to run your business, administrative expenses, marketing, advertising, software development. Software development, there are some rules for that, but you can take the deduction. All kinds of contractors and service providers that you need to hire to help you to run your business. You're going to deduct all those expenses, and you're going to have your net profit, your net income, sorry. You're never going to pay taxes on your revenue.
Okay. So that it's really different from a lot of countries from Latin America and from Europe, right?
Yes, exactly. It's different from what we see abroad. And you asked about having a loss. So I consider the US tax system pretty much fair when we're talking about companies, because first of all, the government only will take his portion of your profits once you're making money too.
Sure.
So they don't take taxes out of your revenue. And the second thing is that if you have a loss, usually you're going to have a loss in your first year of operation, right? We're all entrepreneurs here. We know how it works. You make a lot of investments up front, and then you start to have a more profitable operation starting on your second or third year. And then you can carry forward that loss, and you can take it as a deduction on the following year. There are some restrictions in terms of percentage, but you usually can take 80% of that loss on the next year, and then the rest of the loss you're going to be able to take on the following years. So you get the credit for all the loss that you had when you first started the operation before you start paying taxes on your profits.
Perfect. That's good. Amazing. Next one here. So what is the process of preparing and submitting my tax returns to the IRS? How does it work?
Well, first thing that you're going to need is your accounting, your profit and loss, your balance sheet really well organized, okay? Because if you're going to pay taxes only on your net income and you don't know your net income, you know, we can't move past that. So it's important that you keep your business account separate from your personal account, that you keep track of all your expenses. Try to use an accounting software like Xero or QuickBooks, which are very broadly known in the US, are very reliable, and they are going to be very helpful for you when managing your finances. The second thing to take into consideration is that although the US is one of the most advanced countries when we're talking about technology, the IRS has pretty much old processes still. So some of the forms we're able to deliver it online. We're able to submit it for signature online. You're going to do an e-signature. We're going to file with the IRS via software. Everything works perfectly well. But for some of our tax returns, the process still go through mail, paper mail. So we're going to submit the forms for you via email, but you're going to print it out, sign in wet ink, put the papers on an envelope, mail it to GlobalFi. We're going to get it in our office, review all the tax documents, make sure that everything is correct, place it in an envelope again, mail it again to the IRS, and wait for them to receive the mail there. So every time that we're talking about deadlines here, you need to consider that. And there are even some forms that we deliver to the IRS via fax. Remember the fax machine, the old and gold fax machine? We do still use that to file some forms. So we need to take all of that into consideration when thinking about the tax season in the United States.
It's true. So, I mean, if the due date is April 15, it doesn't mean that you can start preparing your tax return on April 14, right?
No.
You have to do it quite before to be able to have it ready by the due date. And we're going to cover all due dates in a few minutes. And this is a really common question, right? What happens if I don't file my return on time?
You're going to be subject to penalties, as you know. You're going to pay interest on the amount of taxes that weren't paid on time. If you fail to file an annual report, your company will be non-compliant, won't be in good standing, you won't be allowed to do business. You may have trouble with your bank account too. So there are a lot of trouble that comes from not filing your tax returns or not filing your tax returns on time. One specific form that we're going to cover later has a penalty of $25,000. It doesn't matter how much were the transactions that you were reporting inside of the form. The penalty is pretty high, it's pretty aggressive because the government wants to have that information. So it's important that that you are aware of all deadlines and everything that your company must file inside the United States.
Yeah, and in the US, the company owner is the one that is responsible to file their taxes and to make sure that everything's correct. So although you may hire a company like GlobalFi that has tons of experience in filing thousands of tax returns every year, you have to understand your requirements and you have to double check everything that was done by anyone providing tax services in the US, because at the end of the day, you're the one that signed the tax returns and submit to the government.
You are the ultimate responsible for your company's tax returns. So every time that somebody asks us about doing something wrong, we advise them about it. Hey, it's not us doing something wrong, it's you, and you're gonna suffer the consequences. So think twice before you do anything that is not what is expected from you, because you are the ultimate responsible before all the US government.
Yeah, true. And to close this first part here, the next question is about money, right? How much we will pay in taxes? Do you want to show our system? Do you want to introduce your tax calculation here?
Yes, go ahead. So how much you're going to pay in taxes will depend based on your company structure, based on the number of members that you have, based on the type of members that you have, because maybe you have one of your members that is a foreign company. So we created a tax calculator. I personally developed this calculator, so report any bugs that you may find. But the reason why I did this is because the tax table in the US is progressive, and depending on the amount of profits that you have, you're going to change the percentages, and the calculation is not very easy. So what I tried to do was to make an easy way for you to even to play around with different amount of profits every year. So you're going to inform your company structure, how many members it has, and it will also you're going to provide also the state, and it will also bring the state renewal, the state fees, what are the due dates. It's really complete, so you can have a better understanding of how much taxes how much money you're going to pay in taxes.
And this is a free tool and a free resource that we develop for our clients and for, I mean, everybody that wants to set up a company in the US or they already have a company in the US. And I mean, you can go to our website, on the menu, click on help, and then free tax calculator.
Yes, and we just got a question from Jonathan. Jonathan, your question is pretty much answered on the screen. You can go to the tax calculator and you can put the net income that you had there. You're going to inform that it's an LLC in Florida, how many members you have, and you're going to have the amount of taxes you should be paying.
Yeah, and again, he mentioned that his LLC is in Florida, right? And in Florida, there's no state tax for
LLCs.
LLCs.
Yes.
For individuals, therefore for LLCs. So it doesn't matter if you're in the case of an LLC that is operated remotely, okay? It doesn't matter if
Jonathan, we are considering you don't live in the US.
Yeah, again, yeah. This webinar is all done to non-residents, right? And non-US citizens. So, I mean, if you have an LLC and it's registered in Florida, Wyoming, Delaware, New Mexico, you're not going to be paying state income tax, right? Only federal income tax. But again, the tax calculator is a free resource that Eva developed and is available on our website for everybody.
Our team just added the link to the YouTube chat, so you're able to just click there and you'll be redirected to the right place.
Oh, that's amazing. So now let's start with the hard part, right?
Yes.
Taxes, how does it work for each one of the companies' structures that you may register being a non-resident? So let's start by a C corporation.
Really good. So the C corporation, there's something really important here. Although if you didn't have profits, you won't have any kind of taxes to be paid. It's mandatory that you file your tax return on time, okay? Because there are penalties there and other sanctions in place if you don't file your tax return. So if you have a corporation, you must file a tax return, even if it's all zeros, okay? Corporations will pay a flex tax rate. It's valid until December 2025. Things may or may not change depending on what the current government decides. But right now, it's 21% flat on your net income. So let's say you had $100,000 in net income, you're going to pay $21,000 in federal income taxes. Okay. If you have a corporation in Florida, you will also have 5.5% in state income taxes on the amount of profits that surpass $50,000. So you're going to pay 5.5 on the exceeding $50,000 that you had in net income.
Okay, and what is the due date for the corporation tax return?
April 15th, and the penalty for not filing on time is $485 plus a penalty on the amount of the taxes not paid.
Perfect, and the form that the company will file is the 1120, right?
Exactly.
Great, now let's go with a LLC partnership. So LLC partnership is an LLC with 2 or more owners, okay? So it can be 50-50, 80, 20%, 90, 90%, 1%, it doesn't matter. An LLC with 2 or more members, partners, is taxed as an LLC partnership. So who has to file income tax in the US when they are LLC partnership?
When we're talking about a partnership, there's something unique that differs an LLC partnership from the other structures that we have here. So if you have an LLC partnership and you didn't start your business, you didn't do anything, let's say you just opened the company and you didn't have the time to do anything, you know, maybe your inventory didn't arrive in the US, maybe you didn't have time to purchase anything or, you know, to start selling or to start promoting your services or your products. In this case, you don't need to file a tax return. But you still need to do the state renewal, okay? Keep that in mind. If your LLC had transactions, but you had a loss, only the partnership will need to file a tax return. So the company will file a tax return reporting a loss, and the individuals, the members of the company, they don't need to file. It's not mandatory. You're not obligated to file a tax return reporting a loss, So if you had a small loss that doesn't make sense to carry forward for the next years, you don't need to file a tax return for the individuals, and you can avoid those costs. If you have a partnership, you had transactions and you had a positive net income, if you had profits, it's mandatory that you file the tax return for the company and also for the members. Remember that LLCs are taxed on a member level, so it's mandatory that you file the income tax return for the members, the 1040 NR, and then you're gonna be paying taxes on an individual level. One important thing is that LLCs, actually for all company structures, okay? The way that the taxation system works in the US is that you pay as you go. So you're going to pay taxes along the year, but you're going to file the tax return on the following year. So you should have been paying taxes during 2024, quarterly withholding or quarterly estimated taxes. And the ideal scenario would be to arrive in 2025 with at least 90% of your taxes already paid. If it's not the case, you may have penalties on the amount of taxes that you didn't previously paid to the United States. And when we're talking about partnerships, the withholding requirement is that you withhold 37% of your profits to the IRS. And then on the following year, the members will file their tax returns. They're going to inform what are their portions of the profits, and they're going to be taxed on the correct tax rate. And IRS will send you a refund. The amount of the refund is usually deposited on the member's account. We inform all of that when we're filing the tax return. But the thing is, some companies or most entrepreneurs, they don't want to leave 40% of their profits, almost 40% of their profits with the IRS the whole year. So they do prefer not to withhold and pay the penalty on the following year than to do the withholding during the previous tax year. So it depends on your strategy too.
That makes sense. So on LLC partnership, the company itself will file a form 1065.
Exactly.
Right? Plus the 8804, 8805. And then they're going to give a K1 form for each one of the owners. Right? And then the owners will file their personal income tax, if they're not residents, on a 1040 NR, using that K1 form as a base for their personal income tax,
exactly. Right? And something important to mention, even when we're talking about the calculator is just a prototype, and we consider that all members have the same shares and the same quotes of the company. But in some cases, an LLC may have a member with 30% and the other one with 70%. Is the K1 form that is going to inform the IRS how much money or how much of the net income should be apportioned for each member. So how much are the tax due for each one of them? And
the partnership, it's something that's really important now, is that the due date, the deadline to file your income tax with the IRS is now March 15. Right? And one important thing is that if you don't do that on time, you're going to have $245 as penalty per member per month. So if you have an LLC with 2 members, it's going to be almost $500 a month as penalty for your delay.
Exactly. So if you have a partnership, run, because partnerships are exactly the kind of structure that have to file paper forms.
And let's be real. There's no more time to hire a tax preparer, to prepare your tax return, to send it to Germany or to France so you can sign it, then mail back to the US, and then we can review return to the IRS. So the option is that if you hire, if you don't have our essential package or our Global FI's scale package, you have to hire right now your tax season package, because that way we're gonna file for an extension, giving you a few more months to file your income tax. So this means that you're not gonna pay the penalties, just the interest of the amount of taxes that you want, but you're not gonna have to pay penalties because you submitted your income tax late.
Yes, what happens is that when we file for an extension, we get an extension on the time to file and not an extension on the time to pay. So you're not going to pay the penalties for filing late, but you're going to pay the penalties for paying late, which are way lower than the first one. Another important thing is that if you are a Global FI customer, go to our portal, portal.globalfi.com. This year, we had automated the whole tax season process. You're going to have the step-by-step, everything that you need to do, all the information that you need to provide us, so we can evaluate if your company needs to file a tax return. If not, when is your annual report due? What are the forms that you must file? So if you go to portal.globalfi.com, you're going to have the whole tax season process in one place. And another important thing is that if you are required to file, or if you hire, for example, the state renewal or anything like that, you're going to be able to follow the process. So you're going to see the status of process, and you're going to monitor how our team is delivering you too.
That's true. And if you're not our client yet, just get in touch with our sales team, and then we're going to be more than happy to assist you on that, on those requirements. Now let's go to something here that actually Jonathan sent another question or another message regarding that, which is amazing, Jonathan. Please keep sharing your questions. It's when you have a company in the US and whether you have or not have an effectively connected income, right? So this is a really strong discussion and a common question between our clients. I mean, look, I read that if I create a company in the US, I don't live in the US, I don't have to pay taxes in the US. So let us explain exactly how does it work. So let's make sure here that you're not a US citizen, a temporary or a permanent resident in the United States, right? So you own a LLC with only one member, that is a disregarded entity, and you're not American and you don't live in the US. The second thing is that you are not a partner of a partnership. So you are a partner of a LLC with only one member. And the third thing is that you are delivering all your services, not products, all your services from abroad. So let's say you are a software developer, or you're a market agency, or a digital consultant that lives in Europe, for example, and you're delivering your service from your home country or from outside the US. So you're not inside the US, and you may or may not have US clients. So the point here is not where your client's located, but where are you working from? So in this case, you're considering that you are working from outside the US.
Correct.
Perfect?
Perfect.
So let's go with the LLC, disregarded entity, that it's a LLC with only one member that has effectively connected income. So this means that they are either selling their services locally in the US, or they have employees in the US, they have a real office in the US, or they are an e-commerce operation, for example, right? So their products are inside the country. So what happens in that case?
In that case, considering you are an LLC with effectively connected income, which means that you, as Diego just mentioned, either sell products or have any sort of physical presence inside of the country, you're going to be taxed on your net income on the tax rates between 10 and 37%. Here we are considering that the owner is an individual, okay? Later, we're going to talk about the owner being a foreign company. The due date will be April 15th. And actually, when you're filing your individual tax return, June 15th, considering you don't have wages inside the United States. But as you have to file the form 5472, and this form is the one who has the most aggressive penalty so far, which is $25,000 for not filing, and it doesn't matter the amount of profits or the amount of transactions that you missed reporting. And this form has a deadline on April 15th. We're going to always mention April 15th as the deadline for a disregarded entity to make sure you don't miss the most important deadline, which has the highest penalty. So it's mandatory that you file the 5472 reporting all sort of transactions that happened between the US company, the LLC, and the member or any party related to the member outside the United States. So let's say the owner of the company, your brothers, sisters, parents, your kids, your significant other, your company abroad. This form specifically, the 5472, it doesn't have any sort of taxes to be paid. It's just a reporting form. It's an informative form, but it's mandatory and has that penalty. The 1040NR plus the Schedule C is where we're going to report all the business transactions, the revenue, costs, expenses, and then the net income, and the taxes will be calculated on that.
Perfect. So if you have an LLC with only one member and you have effectively connected income, you're gonna file the 1040NR with the Schedule C. That's the schedule for the company, right? To report the company's transactions, plus the 5472.
Exactly. Separately, you're going to file the form 5472. Again, if you're a customer, get to our portal. We're going to inform you exactly what you need to file depending on the situation of your business.
And the penalty for not filing in time is going to be $485 plus 5% penalty per month, and another $25,000 at the penalty for the 5472.
Exactly.
Now let's go the same structure. So LLC with only one member with effectively connected income, but now the member is a foreign company. So let's say we have a startup based in UK, and that company from UK is the sole owner of that LLC in the US. How does it work?
So every time that we talk about LLCs, we talk about being transparent, that the taxes go through the personal level, and that you don't pay state tax, and a lot of things, right? When you have an LLC with only one member, which is a foreign company, it all changes. The company starts to be treated as a foreign corporation for tax purposes, and the taxes will be the equivalent. So when we're talking about taxes here, we're talking about 21% flat rate on the net income. And if you send the profits back to your country, or if that company transfer the profits back to their accounts in their home country, there is another tax of 30% on top of the dividends if you don't have any sort of tax treaty with the US. If your country has a tax treaty, it can be reduced to 5%, 10%, 15%, depending on the tax treaty. But it's important to keep that in mind, that the money doesn't belong to your company in your country yet. It still belongs to the US operation. And when you transfer that money back, you're subject to taxation again.
Now, this is interesting, what Eva mentioned regarding the tax treatment.
Yes.
Because between the countries. Like the majority of the countries in Europe, right, they have some sort of a tax treaty with the US. So, I mean, the US part of the taxes will usually be the same, but it may change when you get to the personal level, right?
Exactly.
Nice. And then when is the due date?
April 15th, you start following the corporation calendar. So it's going to be April 15th. The form that must be delivered is the 11/20th.
Perfect. And then another $500 as penalties, plus the $25,000 for the 5472.
Exactly.
And then we have like the big star, right? LLC with only one member that is an individual without ECI. That's what everybody dreams of, right?
Yes.
Having a business in the US and doesn't have to pay taxes in the US.
Yes, it's a dream come true.
It's a dream come true, it's true. Does it mean that they don't have to file anything?
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
This is something really important.
That's Jonathan's case.
Yes, exactly. So first of all, most of the time, this structure applies to freelancers, right? Or any sort of service provider.
Digital business.
Working from their home country, providing services to customers either in the US or outside the US. What happens? You are still required to file the Form 5472 plus the 1120 pro forma. This is required for all LLCs, disregarded entities. So you won't have to pay taxes in the US. It doesn't change what we already said, but it's mandatory that you file the 5472 form to avoid the $25,000 penalty. Just for you to understand this form, the reason that the government created this form is to prevent money laundering and terrorism financing. So what they want to know is about the money that you sent back and forth from the US to outside the US, if you're using that structure inside of the country to do anything that is illegal. So you don't need to be worried about reporting any sort of profit distributions, purchases, even loans or anything like this. This is not a problem. The government just want to know if everything that happened was legit, and that's it, you know? And if you don't file, it's the $25,000 penalty. Plus, something else that is important is to remember that you still have to do the state renewal depending on the state your business is formed. If you are an LLC, sole proprietorship in New Mexico is the only exception, but all the other states, you're gonna need to do a renewal.
Yeah, so, I mean, LLC with only one member. The member is not a US citizen, doesn't live in the US. they run and operate the company solely from abroad, even though they may have customers in the US, but they are performing their services from outside the US. Then they may not be required to pay taxes in the US, but anyway, they have to file at least the 5472. And if you don't file, the penalty is $25,000 sharp, right? I mean, it's just a beautiful paper letter that's gonna get to the mail telling that now you own the US
You owe, yes.
you owe the IRS $25,000. Again, if you are a client from GlobalFi and you have the starter package, the 5472 is not included. You have two options, or to do an upgrade for the essential package, for example.
In this case, the freelancer essential will be enough.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I'm gonna cover the package later on, but you can do an upgrade for another package that will already include the 5472, or you may hire only the 5472 as what we call as an OTS, one-time service. Okay, so I mean, again, if you're a GlobalFi customer, go to the go to portal.globalfi.com. File. It's gonna take you less than a minute to file the questionnaire regarding your 2024 operation, and then you're gonna get exactly what you need to file and how much that's gonna cost.
Yeah, and what we keep referring you to the portal because there we're gonna ask you other important questions too.
Sure.
Because sometimes you have a US, I don't know, corporation which didn't have any sort of transactions, but your US corporation owns a subsidiary in a different country. So we need to ask these sort of questions. Maybe your company has a partner that is a foreign company. Maybe your company has a partner that is a US resident. Maybe you deal with cryptocurrency. You know, there are different scenarios that we need to cover and we need to ask you about before determining if you need to file something extra or not.
Yeah, and we file thousands of 5472 forms every year. So I mean, if you're not a client and you need someone with lots of knowledge about that, just talk to us. We'll be more than happy to assist you. And then, as Eva mentioned a few times before, I mean, although you may not have to pay taxes, you still have to file your annual report or franchise tax with the state. We're going to call here as annual, as your state renewal. I'm going to cover here the 5 states that GlobalFi works with: Wyoming, New Mexico, Florida, Delaware, and Texas. Okay, so if you have an LLC or a corporation registered in Florida, you have to file your annual report before or on May 1st. If you don't do that, you're going to have a $400 fine right after that. And in another few months, the company will be dissolved by the state. And then this means that you just can't do business anymore. Can't open a bank account, can buy from your
vendors,
for your vendors, and so on.
And in Florida's case, it's even worse because the records are public.
That's true.
So it stays on your record.
Forever.
Even if you reinstate the company and you pay everything that you owe, it's going to stay there forever, and it's going to show that your company was administratively dissolved because it was no compliant. So don't let it happen.
Yeah. So in Florida, again, May 1st is the due date, $138 for an LLC and $150 for a corporation. If you have a corporation in Delaware, then you have to file your corporation's annual report before or on March 1st. That is in a few days, right? And the cost is going to be $225 or more based on the number of shares that you have. And one important thing here is that if you don't do that, the fines on tax on Delaware are terrible. So it's going to cost you way more if you don't file your annual report than just paying and make sure that you're running smooth with your Delaware corporation. If you have a Delaware LLC, you're going to file your franchise tax before on June 1st, and the renewal fee will be $300. If you have an Wyoming LLC or Wyoming corporation, you have to file your annual report every year on the first day of your company's anniversary month. So let's say you register your company on March 15, 2004. You have to file your Wyoming annual report before March 1st, 2025. Okay, and the fee is only $62.25. And I mean, Wyoming is like one of the best states right now for you to have your company for three main reasons.
It's my favorite state.
For three main reasons. I mean, you have the protection on the name of the members and the partners, just like you have in Delaware. So the information is not public. You have zero state income tax. So I mean, you don't have to pay income tax in
Important too.
any revenue. It doesn't matter if it's a corporation or LLC. And the renewal fee is low, only $62 versus $300 that would have in Delaware, for example. And the formation process is really quick. So in Wyoming, the formation process is online. It takes a few minutes for us to get your articles of formation. In Texas, in Delaware, it takes weeks. So Wyoming, it's one of the most
advantages states, right?
Yeah, it's true. And then you have if you have a corporation or LLC in Texas, you have to file your annual report. I'm sorry, your franchise tax by April 15, and you're gonna pay a percentage of your income. And if you have a corporation in New Mexico, you have to file your annual report every 2 years, and you pay only $25 for the state fee. So if you formed your corporation in New Mexico in 2024, you have to file in 2026. Therefore, you have nothing to do this year. If you file in 2023, you're gonna have to file your annual report for the corporation in New Mexico this year. And New Mexico, I mean, you're gonna see that there's no LLC in New Mexico listed here because an LLC in New Mexico doesn't have to file their annual report, right?
Exactly.
Perfect. So again, no one likes to pay unnecessary taxes or too much taxes, of course, much less fines. So use GlobalFi services to operate safely with or
Go ahead.
top-notch support.
I just wanted to add, because you mentioned about the state fees and the difference between the states, and we always joke that Wyoming is the best state, right? Something important for our customers that sell products is that if they're going to have their inventory inside a certain state, that may bring additional obligations or additional requirements. So for instance, Florida will require you to start paying sales tax, which is the tax on the products that you sell. You actually just collect the payment from your customer and send it to the government, but it's mandatory that you do that right from when you start. If you're starting to do sales from other states, you may have more time to start paying sales tax because it's going to be after you reach a certain threshold. So even for that, if you're selling merchandise, it's important that you have a guidance, that you talk to a specialist that will give you the best instructions tailored for your case to save on taxes.
Yeah, perfect. Well, we have questions that were submitted to us prior for the webinar. I mean, but before we get into the Q&A, I'd love to get the feedback from you that you're watching us. So, I mean, if you can leave on the chat your feedback, your questions, they're going to be amazing. We're going to be able to answer by the end of the webinar. And also, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're almost reaching our 10,000 followers. It's just another 730 followers so that we can get to the 10,000 followers. So do it. I promise we're gonna have rich content every other week here in our YouTube channel. And of course, I have to talk a little bit more about how GlobalFi packages work, because this is the level of service. I mean, this is the best service that you're gonna get in terms of getting support for your operations in the US. So I mean, we can start with the starter package. The starter package, if you don't have a company in the US, it's going to include the company registration, so the business formation, EIN application, virtual address, registered agent, the BOI information, the BOI report, the BOI report that is back, and also access to a compliance calendar where you're going to be able to see upfront all the fees that you have to pay for the state renewal, the due dates for income tax, and so on. So a starter package is like the basic for you to start your operation in the US. If you already have a company in the US, and if you already has a company in the US and you move to GlobalFi, then the package already includes the service fees to do all the updates with the IRS and with the State Department of Revenue to change your business address and register agent to GlobalFi. Then we have the essential package. The essential package, the essential plan will cover everything from starter plus the annual business tax for your company. So again, if you have a corporation, it's going to include the Form 1120. If you have a LLC partnership, the 1065. And if you have a LLC only one member, the 5472.
If you have an LLC with only one member, it actually covers even your individual tax return.
It's true. It's true.
So the essential plan, if you are an LLC with only one member, it will cover all the forms that you need to file.
And something that's really important here is that you also get access to our tax team. So this means that you can have your annual call with them discussing about your business, understanding more about the U.S. operation, U.S. operations, U.S. taxes, and you can discuss with them every year how is your operations going and what is the best tax strategy for your business.
Yes, and something that you mentioned that is really important is that when we talk about the tax consulting call, sometimes you think, oh, but I don't have that many questions regarding taxes, right? But you can also ask other questions related to your business in the US.
Sure.
Starting from like how to send an invoice, how the payment system works, do I need to have a paper checks, or how the business scenario works inside the United States too. So our team is prepared to advise you on all the questions that you have related to that.
Yeah, and then we have our most complete package, that is the scale package, that on top of taking care of your address, register agent, annual taxes, you have your daily or monthly bookkeeping and accounting support. So we're gonna provide you with the accounting software, Xero, for example. Our team will do all the bookkeeping for you on a weekly basis, daily basis, monthly basis, depending on the volume of transactions. You have every month, you're gonna get your profit and loss, you're gonna get our balance sheet, and you can also schedule calls every week or every month with our bookkeeping team. I mean, we're gonna set up a full bookkeeping team working exclusive directly with you. So you're gonna have like a real account manager that knows your business, provide you the weekly, the daily, or the monthly support that you need to run a successful operation in the US. And then the scale package starts in $5,000 a year, or you can pay that monthly in $479. And if you don't need a package, you just wanna get the 5472 form ready, or if you wanna just hire or a tax or a corporation package, you can do that as a one-time service. So for instance, the 5472 cost, our fee is $395. Pretty simple to do that directly from our portal if you're already a client, or if you're not a client, directly with our sales team. And you can also get like our more complete package for a corporation starting in $750. And how do you get in touch with us? So you can get all our plans, our company information directly on our website at globalfi.com, or you can get in touch with our sales team at sales@globalfi.com, or you can call us or WhatsApp us at +1 689 9005 As soon as you text us in Portuguese, Spanish, or English, one of our customer representatives or one of our sales professionals will get in touch with you, and answer all the questions about your US operation.
Exactly. And even we are mentioning here to our customers to go to our portal.globalfi.com to see everything that they need to file. If you're not a GlobalFi customer and you just want to understand what you should be filing this year and if you should be filing something this year, you can get in touch with our team, even using the chat on our website. We're going to verify that for you, provide you the answer, and then you can determine if you're going to hire our services or not, okay? So there is no commitment. You can just reach out to us. We're going to be happy to help you.
Perfect, amazing. So, I have a few questions here. I have 4 questions that were submitted prior to our call. I also have another question from Jonathan that is on the chat. So let's start with Robert Kraus. So his question was, last year I had no sales. Should I pay taxes?
No, if you had no sales, if you had no income, you're not going to pay taxes, but you may need to file depending on your company structure, okay? But you don't have taxes if you didn't have any sort of income inside the US.
Yeah. So I know that Robert is our client, so you can go to our portal and answer the question, or wizard or tax season wizard, and it's gonna let you know exactly what you have to file. Then I have another one from Joyce. That what do I need to get from the marketplace and payment methods to prepare my taxes?
Well, it works for marketplaces, for payment processors, like say Amazon, Shopify Payments, Stripe, whatever you have connected to your e-commerce or whatever you get paid for your services. all of them will have something like shining on the screen at this time of the year called reports, tax information, and they're probably going to provide you with a 1099 form, okay? It may be a 1099K or a different 1099s there. Download all of that, and you please send that to us when you're sending the financial reports for your company, because we're going to use that as a base to provide information to the IRS. Every company that sends you a form 1099 sends that same information to the IRS.
That's true.
So the IRS is expecting to receive the same amount. And let me give you an example. You get paid by Amazon, right? And then Amazon has a gross amount, then they deduct their fees, and they deposit the net amount on your bank account. You're going to inform us the net amount. Amazon will inform the IRS the gross amount. And we need to do the same calculation as they did and to report the same amount.
Yeah, that's important for sure. And then I have a question for Anu, that is also our client. What about state tax?
Yes, I believe we covered that before. So depending on the state you are registered in, and depending on your tax structure, you may or may not have state income tax. If you are our customer, so you already said he is, go to our portal and you're going to be guided through the process, and it's going to be easier for you to understand what you need to file.
Nice. And Melanie actually submitted the question in Spanish, and by my mistake, I put it in Spanish, not English. I didn't translate. I'm sorry, guys. So, I mean, she's asking about what is deductible. So, let's say if you have a service company, what can be deductible from your income to pay less tax?
Everything that is considered ordinary and necessary for your business. Ordinary means that it's not extravagant, okay? So, for example, you need to
Can I pay my Porsche or my Ferrari? Can I deduct that?
I believe IRS is not considered that necessary,
Okay.
not ordinary. But for example, you need to travel, let's say from Europe to the US to meet your vendors or your customers. And you go on a cruise ship. Did you need to go on a cruise ship? No, you didn't. You could take an airplane. So that's what they mean by ordinary and necessary. But everything that is related to your company can be deducted. So all your marketing and advertising expenses, as we mentioned before, any sort of service provider that you hire, even the GlobalFi services are deductible. So everything that is related to your business is considered a deduction when you're calculating your net income.
Perfect. And then Jonathan made a final question here. Should we submit our income statement to the IRS as an LLC disregarded entity without ECI?
No, you don't need to. And actually, nobody submits their income statement to the IRS. We use the income statement to prepare the income tax return, but we don't submit your documents to the IRS. Are noted in the request, all of that. But in your case, as you don't have ECI, the only thing that we need is the information about the transactions that happened between you and your company. And it includes, for example, the initial bank account deposit that you probably made to open the bank account, the profit distributions that you made during the year, any sort of financial transaction that happened between you or any party related to you and your LLC.
So in Jonathan's case, for example, let's say he only needs to file the 5472. It means that he still have to file the form, but on the form, it doesn't include like the balance sheet or the income statement.
No.
It's just like the informative regarding the transaction.
Exactly. And even on our side, when we're preparing your return, we're not going to ask you for your finances. Okay. We're going to ask you specific questions. Hey, did you have transactions between the company and yourself? We're going to explain what it means. And then you're going to inform us what kind of transactions you had, the amount, and we're going to use that as the foundation to create your tax forms. We're going to submit everything back to you for you to review and sign. And only after you review and sign is that we're going to submit it to the IRS. So you're always going to have the chance to review anything that we are doing before we submitted it to the government agencies.
Yeah, you know, Jonathan added that he's in France, and then in France they have to submit all the documents to the. I mean, it's interesting when you work with customers from all over the world that you figure out that each country has a different way of doing transactions. So, like the customers that we have from Brazil, they're always asking, but what about the invoice? Is it registered with the government? Is it, I mean, how can I just do an invoice on a Word document? So, I mean, then comes a lot of questions regarding invoice. in Europe, it's a high worry regarding taxes, right?
And
Because the
also-
tax system in Europe is pretty hard also to
And
understand.
I noticed that Europeans, they usually have a really strong, they're really worried about the ownership.
Oh yeah, that's
They
true.
want to understand how they're going to prove the business ownership, because here in some countries it's because there in Europe in some countries it's registered with the court, and here in the US, like, you have an operating agreement, which is an internal document
And that's it.
that the members sign and keep it to themselves, and no government agency has access to that. So it's their word actually that proves their word in their documents, but that proves the company
Yeah.
ownership. And in Europe, it's like way more regulated. So those nuances are different. I've never seen a country where you submit the financial statements to the BRS.
And then, I mean, one of the most valuable things that Global Fi provides is information, right? Is guidance to let our clients or even the general market knows exactly how to do the things right in the US, right? So if you have, if you're already our client again, and you have the essential or scale package, talk to your bookkeeper or talk to one of our tax specialists about your business, because sometimes you may be considering that you don't have to pay taxes in the US and therefore just file the 5472, which is good. I'm not going to pay taxes in the US. I'm going to pay my home country. But let's say in some countries there's a treaty between US and between your home country. So it may be better for you to report your income tax in the US,
Exactly.
paying in a lower
Tax rate.
a lower tax rate than paying your customer. So I mean, get in touch with us. Let us know about your situation. Our team is always open to help you and to assist you to do so you can make the best decisions for your American business. Well, guys, again, thank you very much for your time. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. I promise you, you're going to get lots of value from the content that we're going to be posting here on the following weeks. If you're a client, get in touch with our team of specialists. They're going to be more than happy to assist you. If you're not your client, don't miss out. Get in touch with our sales team, and we're going to be more than happy to introduce our services and tell you how we can help you to grow your business in the US. Eva, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you, Diego. Guys, it was a pleasure to be here with you. And we appreciate the participation. Thank you, Jonathan, for bringing up your questions.
You were the star today, Jonathan.
Thank you, everyone who submitted their questions beforehand, too. And we see you next time.
Thanks so much, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Have a good one.